RoboCop is a lot of things. On the surface, it's a cherished sci-fi action classic, maybe one of the best of the genre in general. When the original was released in the 80s, it was a blockbuster hit and cultural phenomenon. It's also a firm dystopian prediction of modern America, which, looks closer and closer to reality as the years pass. It's also a cultural commentary, with many things 30 years later actually coming to pass or become commonplace, which I think is more horrifying than anything because it was meant to be satirical at the time. However, one thing RoboCop never was up to this point was a compelling, borderline, dare I say it, ImSim, or at least just a first-person shooter that's actually worth playing. 2023 really is the year that keeps on giving, and I really just can't keep up with it at this point. It'd be a bit disingenuous to say that Teon has a storied history, but they are what is becoming an increasing enigma in the gaming space by being what is essentially an independent studio. They're also becoming known for at least having the ambition to try to tackle game adaptations of well-known movie franchises. Trying to faithfully recreate a game around a popular movie or TV show is always going to be considered by some to be a fool's errand. However, when the games prove to be a success, the hype is off the charts, much like with the massive success of that Harry Potter game earlier this year. On the other hand, if the game is a dumpster fire, then it's always going to get way more negative press because of the expectations surrounding it. That Lord of the Rings Gollum game that was received so bad that you have to wonder if the rights owners are trying to scrub that one from existence. So a lot of people remember Teon for the absolute train wreck, which was the Rambo video game, while others will remember them for the surprisingly well-reviewed Terminator Resistance game, both of which I really should get around to playing eventually, both for very different reasons. So, enter RoboCop Rogue City. Now, on its surface, this is a game that just screamed Euro jank. It absolutely screamed it from these rooftops. This isn't a bad thing in my books. In fact, it's just one of my guilty pleasures. When I see something like this, I'm just like a moth to a light bulb. I can't help myself. I think the most recent game that mysteriously drew me in like this would have been the charming train wreck that was Crime Boss Rockay City. A game that literally no one knows even exists because it was released exclusively on the Epic Game Store, the place otherwise known as Tim Sweeney's Black Hole. Hey, at least people get paid for that stuff, even if the game doesn't sell great, but that's a story for another time. Anyways, Rogue City is essentially taking place after RoboCop 2, which is fine because, well, I think most fans of the movies would probably like to forget the third movie ever happened, or maybe already have. If there's one major lesson that we've forgotten from movie franchises in the 90s, it's that you should really hang up the gloves after an idea has been milked for all it's worth. I think we'll all look back on the Marvel movies not thinking about the gems, but, remembering how they completely overstayed their welcome. RoboCop, despite the third movie being a disaster, is still a really beloved franchise, so Teon very much had their work cut out for them if they wanted to faithfully reproduce it in a video game. And well, I'm happy to say they've done a tremendous job here. From the set pieces like the cop station and cop cars to the OCP corporate headquarters, the source material is just lovingly recreated here. You can really tell that genuine fans of RoboCop set out to do this right. Everything from your HUD to your badass Auto 9 pistol to the one-liners and quips, it's just so RoboCop. I'm confident that anyone who cherished this sci-fi classic is going to love what they've done with the source material here. Now, I open this by saying this leans into ImSim territory, and I'm not just talking shit here. They released a demo of this game about a month before the full release, and the whole time I'm sitting there playing it, I'm just feeling like, damn, this really reminds me of something like Human Revolution. It might be recency bias here because I just replayed through that whole game earlier this year, and I can tell you for certain that over a decade later, that game really, it's still awesome. It really holds up. But really, hear me out here. Sure, the story follows a mostly linear progression here with RoboCop, but every new area you're presented with primary and secondary objectives and tertiary extras to get done. Like this one sequence where you're helping a lady find her lost cat in the basement of her building, using it as a training opportunity to teach your new partner the basics of police work. Is it necessary? No. Is it wholesome as hell? Yep. While you're doing this, you even stumble upon some people up to no good making trouble in your neighborhood. So was it worth it? Obviously. Alongside the world building and the NPC interactions along the way, you have basic choices to make around what kind of build you want to run or how to upgrade your trusty Auto 9. I think the only thing really missing here is the full-blown inventory, which I think is fine. There's a bit of looting here, but you're basically just vacuuming up evidence of crimes because, well, you're RoboCop. That's all you care about. The story isn't really anything spectacular, really. It's mostly rehashing concepts from the movies, like RoboCop dealing with terms of his existence. You know, is RoboCop just a machine, or is he Alex Murphy? You get to make those decisions here and deal with their outcomes. Also, the classic dilemma of defending the innocent or upholding the law. You also get to make some decisions and even public endorsements here affecting the future of Detroit. The story is definitely a fine adaptation of the source material. Really nothing to complain about here. So, since I'm gushing hard about this game, I'll have to pump the brakes a bit here because I always try to at least field some criticism to anything. So, on the surface, RoboCop is an excellent looking game, most of the time. The one thing to really keep in mind here is that this isn't a large AAA production. This is an independent AA studio, and this is a game running on the Unreal Engine 5, which is, in a lot of ways, new territory for this space, and well, it definitely shows at times, for better or worse. Yeah, it's just like the usual culprits, like, you know, like texture streaming and texture pop-in and strange, you know, depth of field effects not working the way they should. You know, it's just, you know, it's jank. While the rest of my system is fine, my GPU is starting to show its age, and well, let me tell you, this game tried its best to destroy my PC. I was struggling to hold a steady 60 FPS with certain areas just tanking my FPS to realms I haven't seen in years. Listen, games like Cyberpunk ran great on my system. I honestly don't even think about it with most titles. Even Starfield was running acceptably, despite being a Bethesda game. But for this RoboCop game, which a lot of the time looks distinctly like it was probably from last gen, to be absolutely destroying my PC is raising some red flags. I might not be a game developer myself, but I've been playing games long enough to be able to call out optimization issues when I see them. It also makes me wonder if this game would have done just fine on Unreal Engine 4 and the developers maybe bit off more than they could chew. Who knows? And well, in like 5 to 10 years when I want to go replay this game again, it will probably be a complete non-issue, which is the never-ending march of time. Also, the overuse of some basic assets really started to send me near the end. Like this cluttered power bars asset, man, this thing was just everywhere. Also worth mentioning is the price tag is a bit steep, but I guess you gotta pay for that movie license somehow. RoboCop is an absolute classic of the sci-fi genre, and one that is cherished by many. So the fact that Teon has lovingly respected the source material and faithfully produced a game worthy of the name should be a selling point alone here. Besides that, it's actually a really fun game to play. The story is structured well, the gameplay is crisp and does its job proficiently. And while, despite some hitches along the way, the game is charming in its jankiness. This is like definitive Eurojank, full of passion for its delivery and really on point with the satire and corny humor of the source material. Like, just the little stuff, like giving a parking ticket to someone in a part of town that pretty much looks like a war zone. Now that's serving justice. Good job, RoboCop. I damn near played my entire playthrough of this 12 to 13 hour game in like 2 sittings. I just couldn't get enough of it. RoboCop Rogue City really slaps. Thanks for watching, creep.